Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. ICICI Lombard and CNBC-TV18 present India Risk Management Awards, honoring the new age risk management practitioners.
Ukraine war, COVID, demonetization, GST, year after year, one-off and unusual risks, new risks have become the new normal. Under the circumstances, the India Risk Management Awards, sponsored by CNBC-TV18 and ICICI Lombard, becomes a rigorously scored and a vigorously contested award. In this contest, the opinion of the jurors becomes very important because after all, you're testing risk management under dynamic circumstances. So here's welcoming all of you to the jury panel discussion of the India Risk Management Awards. It's a very eminent panel. Joining me are Mr. Dhanpal Jhaveri, the CEO of Eversource Capital and Vice Chairman of Everstone Group. He's the Chairman of the jury panel. Harsh Shah, the Chief Executive Officer, IRM India affiliate, that is the Institute of Risk Management. Dr. C.K.G. Nair, Director, National Institute of Securities Markets, that's SEBI's educational arm. Mr. Ashish Vora, President and Business Head, CRISIL Market Intelligence and Analytics Division, and Dr. Glory Swarupa, who is the Director General of the NIMSME, which he tells me is the National Institute for Micro and Small Medium Enterprises. Gentlemen and lady, thank you very much for joining me after a very long day of rigorous assessment. Thank you very much. Mr. Jhaveri, let me start with you. Before I come to your opinion of the awards itself, your day job is to pick companies and invest in them. Now, when you invest, has risk maturity or risk management become a new and important parameter?
For us as an investor, we call risk and return are two sides of the same coin. And for us, therefore, whenever we look to invest and clearly with a focus to generate returns, we also have to see that what kind of risks associated with that business opportunity for us to be able to say that, okay, overall, we should be able to manage risk to be able to generate returns. Mitigation of risk is one of the core objectives, but at the same time, that does not take place unless there's rigor, discipline, and over a period of time, a business intelligence and perception that one develops to be able to deal with an environment today which is increasingly becoming extremely dynamic and where the agility and the ability of the business to be resilient is becoming increasingly important.
Harsh, you are actually because it's the Institute of Risk Management, you're more in an academic role. Now, from what you have noticed, how are Indian companies embedding or educating their key officials into risk management?
Risk is everyone's responsibility in an organization. And risk management is no longer restricted to identifying or managing or mitigating risks, but it's about taking better informed decisions. So how does one create a risk leadership within the organization, whether it's identifying the chief risk officer, and then under the chief risk officer, it's no longer just the risk team, but also identifying risk champions across the enterprise. And these risk champions are not, risk experts, but they're business owners or process owners who are wearing the risk lens and trying to constantly see what is going wrong before what can go right. And I think that kind of decision making, if it is embedded across the organization, like Dhanpal mentioned, your preparedness to an external shock or an uncertainty will be far more better. So, focus on the risk culture.
Are you seeing companies educating their?
It's on the rise after COVID. We are seeing a lot of investment in training and development. Several risk champions are being put through formal certification programs like ours. And I think the risk culture maturity will evolve as we go along, even with the ESG mandate. The fact that SEBI has put together the LODR guidelines for the top 1,000 listed companies, and even Ministry of Corporate Affairs is actually trying to work out a regulation for certain unlisted private limited companies to set up a risk function.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see that growth in the next 5 to 6 years.
Actually, you stole a bit of my question to Mr. Nair. Since you anyway are, continuing from policy making, what's your sense, Mr. Nair? Have the regulators done enough in terms of mandating a risk management tool or risk management practices? or does more need to be done?
It's a steep learning curve, Lata. And as you have started off this your introduction with the growing risk which we are witnessing in terms of climate change and other environmental issues and geopolitical issues, the risk itself is not the conventional type of thing what we are saying only from the investor point of view, understanding risk, but it is a complex and growing phenomenon. And given that complexity, and I would also say that the Indian company ecosystem suffer from a dualistic framework in terms of both capability and willingness. There are enterprises which are capable and willing, and there are enterprises which are capable but not willing, and there are enterprises which are not capable and in the process but willing or may not be willing. So this, we have got all these matrices. And given the complexity, initially coming to the question very straight away, the regulator has to approach the issue in a soft manner, because there is already a...
First recommendatory and advisory.
Already there is a over-regulation type of a, when it comes to contact regulation particularly, unlike in prudential regulation perhaps, there is a belief that there may be a little bit of micromanagement and over-regulation. So in this steep information requiring phenomenon, the regulator has to walk or treat the path very carefully and slowly. So as part of that, first it should send out the right signals, and as far as sending out the right signals are concerned, I think the regulators are doing well, and now it is for the ecosystem to accept, adapt and implement it, and which they are on different phases with respect to the three brackets which I have put them into.
No, your point is taken. You cannot get to a system of over-regulation in something like risk. So, Ashish, that leads to, the position, the hat that you wear. You are looking at a large amount of, corporate intelligence and data analytics. Has risk been internalized? What is the sense you are getting if you compared over a 10-year period?
It's been a complete change. I mean, you go back to the statement you made when we opened, this forum, right? I mean, there is Ukraine that's happening, which is resulting in commodity price increases. There is COVID, which happened, which changed the way people did business. Everyone moved to a digital model. So I think the basic tenets of risk that people used to look at maybe 3-4 years earlier, which was, largely credit risk and risk with related to operations, has kind of changed completely to something which is more on the enterprise side. People are looking at business risk, they're looking at strategic risk, they're looking at cyber risk and various new areas of risk so that they can be ready for the future and they're being able to operate the business in the future without any kind of bottlenecks whatsoever. So the way we look at companies also and the way we help banks look at companies is that we build elements of these and we are actually seeing that happen. The weightage
You're seeing the metrics improving?
Absolutely. The way credits are evaluated now has large elements of non-credit risk, if you may want to call it, or non-financials, if you may want to call it. We see that very largely in the SME portfolios. So we are seeing that, on the SME portfolios, there's a lot of qualitative analysis that is really being done in order to be able to, decide what to lend and what, what kind of companies that they really want to lend through the door. So I think you're seeing a completely different way in which risk is really perceived by, both lenders as well as investors.
Your last line that in case of small and medium enterprises, banks or lending institutions are already using a lot of qualitative criteria is going to make Dr. Glory Swarupa very happy since she heads the National Institute of Micro Enterprises. Mrs. Swarupa, what are you observing? Are small and medium for small and medium companies, survival and growth is itself a very big challenge. Risk management may become a luxury. Are they able to accept this second level of challenge?
As the entire country knows, entrepreneurship is all about risk. So we talk that, more risk, more benefits, more profits, less risk, less profits, no risk, no profits. That's what we keep talking. And while building the capacity of, the learned segment of the country and also international executives, it reminds us the responsibility to take forward the risk management element into all the MSMEs, because we are serving the nation for the growth and development of MSME sector. while teaching the importance of M's or P's, like we talk about, material, men, money, marketing, all these things, I think definitely we have to inculcate the risk management aspect into all our capacity building, whether it is, junior level officers or the senior most officers. It is, I think, must for all of us to take it forward, because entrepreneurship is again nothing but uncertainty. So they have so many uncertainties with regard to, as narrated by Dr. Nair, or most of the strategists are the practitioner and professionals.
Yes.
When a lot of uncertainties are happening, so they should be prepared for the risk and how to calculate this risk, how to manage this risk. Definitely, as a national institution and as the ministry, we have the responsibility to take it to the micro enterprises, because they are 99% in the country.
Absolutely.
I think we should start rolling these modules into our regular capacity building activities.
I take your point that entrepreneurship itself means risk. It is just that it has become so heightened. We never heard of things like pandemic and wars or breaking of supply chains becoming a part of that calculation. So now the definition has become exponentially more important. We have to take a break, but thereafter we will be speaking to our jurors on what were the key takeaways from this very rigorous contest that they have just judged. Back in a minute.
ICICI Lombard and CNBC-TV18 present India Risk Management Awards, honoring the new age risk management practitioners. ICICI Lombard and CNBC-TV18 present India Risk Management Awards, honoring the new age risk management practitioners.
Welcome back to this very special jury round panel discussion of the India Risk Management Awards. I have been speaking with the chairman, Mr. Dhanpal Jhaveri. He was the chairman of our panel, Mr. Harsh Shah, Dr. CKG Nair, Ashish Vora, and Dr. Glory Swarupa from the Ministry of Medium and Small Enterprises. Gentlemen and Dr. Swarupa, thank you very much for your patience. Mr. Jhaveri, to come back to you, I mean, you saw this vast number of companies that you all, judged in the India Risk Management Awards. Are you happy with the standards that you saw? Are you seeing enough both policy, process, personnel, and technology being employed in risk management?
Lata, first of all, as chair of the jury, my job was made a lot easier because we had a fantastic, eminent, jurors part of this process coming from every walk of life, and therefore able to add a lot of diversity and strong structured opinion and views in terms of the whole award process. Secondly, I would say the kind of universe of applicants that we saw clearly fell into three categories. I would say champions who continue to keep improving on what they have, created in terms of risk practices, processes, and culture within the organization. Emerging businesses who are fast becoming leaders in the risk, I would say, area. And finally, I would say a bunch of very aspirational businesses who want to clearly be there and be known as risk champions. And therefore, the role of the jury became a little bit difficult in terms of being able to select the winners and being able to kind of decide amongst this very, very strong group of applicants. I would say that two or three things very clearly standing out: that overall standards of both risk frameworks and policies, starting from the top at the leadership level, and then in terms of both the people and processes, in terms of the implementation, the culture building across, we could see that there's a very distinct improvement. And in many ways, the pandemic, Ukraine, etc., have acted as accelerants to ensuring that within corporate India, there is a heightened sense and an urgency to get risk as an integral and core part of any corporate, process and culture.
Dr. Nair, do you think there should be more disclosures? Is that an area in which, because I think when the jury was contesting, it was all voluntary what the companies were disclosing. Should there be more mandatory disclosures?
Yeah, gradually, yes. I mean, going forward, as I said in the beginning, it would have been difficult for making very high standards of mandatory disclosures. But as companies implement it and learn, and as Mr. Javeri has already mentioned, some of the leaders are already practicing it at a high level. So as they take the lead in disclosing it at a higher level, others should follow. And along with that, the regulators should also strengthen that mandatory requirement. But let me also hasten to add that the disclosure standards in terms of both mandatory disclosures and we need to evaluate the quality of the disclosures, not only with respect to risk.
They're not just perfunctory.
Yeah, it is not only, I'm not talking of only on risk management, but many of the disclosures are not being contemporaneously evaluated in terms of its quality. It's only disclosed, and like in the case of listed companies, it will be coming on the website of the stock exchange, and some analysts may actually do that.
Okay.
But there is a requirement of evaluating and then spreading. When somebody is doing a good job, then spreading that message further, so that there is a reward also coming in terms of identifying the good practitioners on the ground. And of course, the awards which CNBC, etc. is giving is
hopefully a propeller. That is the purpose. That is the purpose is to encourage
but when
the
it comes from the regulatory authorities, it will give much more sanctity to that process. Yeah.
And Lata, if I might just add here, I think the point around something which is being mandated versus something being voluntary, right? And what we saw very clearly that where it is mandated, for example, there's an award category called regulatory compliance. We actually saw this year, there were at least 3 companies which 100% met each and every regulatory standard, right? And compliance in terms of all the regulations. And we felt that this was something that clearly as a cohort and as a universe, Indian companies are becoming far more aware, and not only far more aware, they're becoming compliant. Therefore, one needs to actually raise the bar in terms of going forward as to how these awards should be granted.
Oh yes, that should be one of the goals of the organizers for sure. Okay, actually, since you said Indian companies, that leads me, and I'm going to put you in a spot, Ashish. Are there sector leaders? I mean, did you observe in the course of your own job or in the course of the awards, whether, say, are multinationals doing it better than Indians? Or are finance companies better because obviously they handle public money and Reserve Bank tends to be more demanding? Are there any leaders in the risk management area?
No, definitely there are, Lata, because I think what's happening is that based on sectors, you do have regulators who have mandated certain set of disclosure norms, a certain set of risks that people need to look at on their day-to-day operations. So those guys have obviously reached a fairly high standard when it comes to risk management, risk monitoring, risk reporting, and so on and so forth. The good thing that was there is that besides those sectors, which were, where the regulator was actually mandating, I think the market itself is making a lot of other organizations, catch up to these. So you do see investors, you do see, other stakeholders, both internal as well as external. I mean, take ESG, for example, right? Most large corporates today have a roadmap towards ESG.
Yes.
They have norms that they've set for themselves or targets that they've set for themselves. They're trying to achieve those targets, over a period of time.
And regulators are catching up.
Yeah, and this is because the whole market environment is forcing them to do stuff.
Absolutely.
So while today we did see some sectors, largely in the banking and financial services space, we did see some typically in the technology space, and areas like that.
They are also ahead because they are probably internationally.
Absolutely. Internationally, plus their customers require them to meet certain standards, right? So they are a little above the pack, if you may want to call it that. But I don't think that the smaller names are too far away, or other sectors are too far away. They will definitely catch up because of the momentum that you see in the market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Swarupa, what will you carry forward now after this jury round to your cohorts, to your audience, the MSMEs?
Yeah. I was so glad to be part of the jury for CNBC Risk Management Awards. This is altogether a different category of awards. I was so excited to see that
You've not seen risk management as a...
Yes, yeah. So many large sized enterprises, they are into these good practices. And of course, medium and small enterprises, they are yet to get this awareness and to get into this path. But as a nation, I think the ministry should come out with a policies like how Swachh Bharat is a policy for entire country, or Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Similar way, I think for MSMEs, it should be made mandatory. All the institutions under the ministry, the statutory bodies,
Cultivate the culture.
Associations, should be made it mandatory, at least to create awareness among the entrepreneurs and the women segment. Now SHGs are very vibrant and FPOs are promoted, farmer producer, every category, I think this concept should be introduced and it should be a made culture. I think down the line, 5 years, definitely it will be a common norm. And this is a G20 presidency year for India, very prestigious and pride year. We have time till November. So we'll try to have a dedicated program for this. And I will put forth to the authorities, at ministry level, so that, we can roll out at least next financial year onwards some projects and programs for creating awareness and to practice this risk management.
Fair enough. Well, finally, I wanted to ask you, Harsh, is it important to make it a branch of study? I mean, at the moment, we have finance, marketing, a whole host of disciplines, but we don't have risk management as a discipline. Do you think specifically it needs to be introduced at an academic level, at a younger level itself? And more importantly, are you seeing enough people wanting to make it a career?
I think that's, if you combine all the responses from the eminent jury members, the regulatory push combined by the cultural approach, the market push, the kind of external environment we're moving into, there is going to be a huge demand for qualified risk professionals. And we're already seeing that. If you look at industry data, there's almost 50,000 open job positions in risk management as we speak. And how do we really supply that talent? That's where we as an institution are working closely. You all provide certification? We provide the leading global ERM certification, and we're working with academic partners across the country to supply this kind of talent to the industry. And it's not just a specific risk function, but it's across the enterprise. More than 300 categories of risks are covered into our curriculum. And right from level 1 to level 5, professionals earn the global designation in enterprise risk management. And this also creates a pathway from a young age to become a certified chief risk officer, because that route has always been vacant. And I think in the coming years, with the regulatory mandates changing, with the kind of approach that companies start taking towards risk management, this 50,000 may go up to 150,000.
All right, I think I gave you a free platform to make a sales pitch, but that is, of course, for the good of India Inc. itself. It is important that risk as a new category in all its intensity is understood and be prepared for. And I think the India Risk Management Awards is one step towards that. Thank you very much, Chairman Mr. Zaveri and members of the jury. Thank you very much.
ICICI Lombard and CNBC-TV18 present India Risk Management Awards, honoring the new age risk management practitioners. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.